Austin, I have Windows 11.
What do you mean?
I have Windows 11. Look, it's Windows 11.
Oh, it's leaked. You can't die.
What?
Put that, get at it. That's illegal.
You want to be an accomplice?
No, there's video evidence of this. I want nothing to do with this. Windows 11 is almost here, and it is going to make your games better. So not only are there actual functional builds of Windows 11 floating around the internet right now, but there's also a major Windows event next week where they're teasing some big new features. Windows 11. It's Windows 11. Surprise, surprise. It's what comes after 10. So this stuff has been pretty heavily teased. Not only did the Windows channel post a suspiciously long 11-minute video the other day of slow-fi Windows startup sounds, which sound very bizarre.
I like bagpipes.
Oh no. If these teases aren't subtle enough for you, Microsoft have also listed the end of support for Windows 10 being in October 2025. So you know, the most recent, up-to-date version of Windows 10 that everyone's running right now, oh yeah, that's gonna be gone. Historically, it is not an easy task to get people to move to a newer version of Windows. In fact, 6 years later, only about 78% of people are on Windows 10, where still a lot of people are using something like Windows 7 or Vista. There's still people who are using Vista out there. But if you look at gamers, it's actually a much, much faster ramp. 96% of Steam users are running Windows 10 at this point, which is actually pretty impressive. But if you think that Windows 10 is only going to have a couple more years of support, they've got to move to 11 quickly. And I don't think it's going to be a massive overhaul. There's certainly going to be some major upgrades, but we actually already have an idea of what Windows 11 is going to look like beyond all the leaks, because they've been talking about it for a little while. The Sun Valley upgrade. There are two sides to this. First of all are the leaked builds of Windows 11 floating around. But on top of that, there are also a lot of features inside of Windows 11 that are currently actually available if you are a Windows insider. Now these leaks originated on Baidu with some screenshots. However, they were corroborated by The Verge. It seems like Windows Central actually has this running on a Surface. Now these are certainly not completed versions of Windows 11, which I assume is going to ship later this year, but they do give us a look at some of the major new features. Namely the fact that the taskbar has actually now been centered, very much like a Dave 2D video had recommended, as well as things like new icons, and even these show that there are straight up Windows 11 Pro like names in there, right? There's no question that this is a brand new version of Windows. The thing that this really reminds me of is actually something on the macOS side of things. So last year there was macOS 11 Big Sur. Now there were certainly some major changes under the hood, but for most people it was a visual overhaul. Now that is obviously something that we're going to see at least in some part on Windows 11. In fact, a lot of the UI stuff that we're seeing, not only with things like new animations, new icons, and some different redesigned functions, reminds me a lot of Windows 10X. Now if you're not familiar, this was a more modern version of Windows, more mobile-focused version of Windows that they originally started talking about a couple of years ago. That was originally going to launch on things like dual-screen devices. It was going to almost go against like Chromebooks, but ultimately it sounds like they sort of shut that down in favor of bringing a lot of that modern UI interface over to just the mainstream version of Windows. And it really does show. This strategy makes sense to me. Windows 10X never really felt like it was the future. I mean, obviously they always need to try to upgrade and improve Windows. We can't just be running Windows 10 or Windows 11 forever. But what I do think is a little bit of a concern is some of the mobile features that are leaking into the main version of Windows. That might sound odd because obviously Windows has a great history of supporting a wide range of hardware, but I do think that there is a little bit of a concern, not so much for me, but I think for a lot of people who are seeing these screenshots, who are worried that Windows 11 is being watered down, that it is less than Windows 10 was, that it's sort of like, oh, this is like, you know, the 80% version of Windows. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think for Microsoft, it makes a lot of sense to make one operating system that runs from everything from a $100 Chromebook competitor all the way up to a high-end gaming PC, and of course the wide range of hardware that's in the middle. But I think we have to be realistic here. Most people these days are using mobile devices, and when you have all these features on your iPhone and on your Android device, people do kind of expect it to work on the desktop side or the laptop or the tablet side of things.
When little Timmy grows up with an iPad, he needs to use something that's a little more intuitive that he's used to.
Yep. But before we get into all of the potential possibilities of Windows 11, let's talk about the stuff that we know will be in the next version of Windows, no cap. See, I said a thing that the TikTokers say. I'm cool again. No cap. So there are some major improvements for gamers. First and foremost, starting with HDR support. Now, HDR is not exactly a new feature for Windows. However, at this point, it's a little bit of a patchwork setup. Different monitors, different applications will support HDR at various levels, and it's never been particularly smooth and consistent going between them. However, that should be a lot more seamless with this new version of Windows. On top of that, there's much better support for multiple GPUs in a system. Now, no, I'm not talking about some Crossfire SLI setup. What I'm mostly referring to is the fact that Windows has a lot more fine-grained control over if you say have integrated graphics and dedicated graphics on like a laptop or a desktop. Imagine you're playing a lighter title like Among Us, which you don't necessarily need to run at 400 frames per second. You can have that running specifically on your integrated graphics, which will give you much better battery life. It's nice to have this built directly into Windows now. Now, Windows 11 has clearly absorbed a lot of the look of Windows 10X, which again was that more mobile-focused version of Windows, but there are also some features it's going to be taken from it as well. Think about things like voice typing, something that's pretty standard on like iOS and Android, will be coming to Windows 11. There's some better security features. You'll still be, of course, able to download and run whatever games you want or whatever apps you want. And on top of that, there's one other feature I've forgotten. What is it, Matt?
Touchscreen.
Touchscreen. Well, that's not new, but you can now get better touchscreen support in Windows 11 because the mobile future is here. There's some other updates which I do think will be nice. So the virtual desktop support has been overhauled. So not only can you better support multiple monitors, you can actually have different desktop backgrounds for each of your virtual desktops. On top of that, there are a lot of smaller things, right? So there's better camera support. So things that you used to have to dive into like your webcam settings now will be directly into the Windows settings screen. There's a new font, which apparently looks better. I think it looks the same or about the same. You can also restart Windows and restart your apps at the same time, similar to the way that a lot of, actually macOS has done this for a long time, but when you restart, it's like, hey, do you want to open up all of your apps the exact same way as before? There's a better clipboard manager that supports emojis. They moved the disk manager from the old school tool.
Oh my god.
I know, it's very revolutionary.
Yes, I'm tired of copy and pasting smiley face and it just putting in text, smiley face.
Okay, look. There are a lot of updates for Windows 11, but I think the big question here is what does Windows 11 really do? They've got some secrets. We'll only have to wait for another week to find them out.
I might have to build.
What, you have a leaked version of Windows?
I might have it, yeah. I might have.
Well, I would never use a leaked version of Windows. Why would I do that? Look how clean my hands are right now. I love our friends on the Windows team and appreciate all the hard work they do. If Ken wants to dabble on the dark side, that's none of my concern. So for the record, I would never condone anyone using leaked, supposedly authentic software, but Ken, how is Windows 11? Hypothetically,
I think he would theoretically say that it is more or less the same. Visually,
that's it.
Well, okay, look.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more or less the same.
Look. The builds that are out there right now that are leaked are not really that much. There will probably be more features that'll be, added on as, time develops. But as of right now, a lot of the things that I may or may not have seen,
Hypothetically,
are more or less visual. So obviously there's a new direction going about. It's a lot cleaner, a lot more rounded shapes in regards to buttons, and a lot more transparency and color. It's very user-friendly. It looks very shiny. It takes a lot of cues, maybe not specifically from the Mac, but I think now it's a little more toe-to-toe now, or
Absolutely.
toe-to-toe, head-to-head.
Head-to-head? These all work.
Yeah,
Those are all good.
Yeah, good.
So outside of any potential knowledge we may or may not have of the actual leaked version of Windows 11, there are, I think, some things that we can speculate about, because obviously this has not been announced yet, and while there are certain things that we pretty much know for sure, whether it's in the leaked build or whether it's in the Windows Insider stuff, what I want to talk about are the things that we expect, because I'm just going to play my cards here. I don't think it's a huge surprise. Windows 11 should be a free update. Now, I don't know that. I don't know that. They could charge it. It could be $20 or whatever. But it seems to me like we're almost kind of past the era of charging for an operating system update. I mean, even think about when Windows 10 first came out. That was a free upgrade for a lot of people. If you had a, somewhat recent 7 or 8 system or whatever. Can I hit you with something that's absolutely not going to happen, but I want to happen?
What's that?
Can I run Windows 11 on an Xbox?
I would love to run Windows 11 on Xbox, much like how I wanted Windows 10 to be on the Xbox Series X.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. This is not going to happen because Microsoft wants to sell Xboxes and not eat into high-end PC sales. But, I mean, how good would it be if you buy a $500 Series X, load a copy of Windows? I mean, it's already kind of running Windows. Like, it's definitely physically possible.
Okay, so now we're going into less speculation.
Town. No, this is
well,
speculation
no.
town.
Well, no. So we're going less into speculation town. We're going more into things that we want to see coming out of Windows 11.
This is it.
And I would like to see Windows running on an Xbox. Now, imagine the dedication that they put into the Surface and that Windows integration, and that, but for the Xbox. Imagine that for gamers.
You know something else that's maybe a little bit more reasonable that I would like to see? AirDrop for Windows. Now, there are third-party tools, there's Bluetooth, blah, blah, blah. I just want something as simple as AirDrop on Windows.
Yeah, for the record, we're not saying actual AirDrop. We're just saying...
No, I'm saying that. I want AirDrop. Reverse engineering.
There's a lot wrong with that.
Come on, I'm sure it's not that hard.
It's look, ideally something that works with iOS and Android that can file drop to Windows or between Windows devices or whatever might have you. That would be really cool because I actually use that on a day-to-day basis, and that's probably one of the big reasons why I'm tied to macOS in the first place, especially when doing things like content creation. I want to take photos on my phone, move them into Photoshop. I want to take videos on my phone, move them to Windows to work in Resolve or Premiere, right?
You can kind of do some of this with either with the app, the My Windows app or whatever it is.
Which I've never used in my life. I should probably try it at some point just to make the argument.
It works well. Samsung stuff does integrate fairly well, but I want something that's a little bit more seamless across the board. You're right. AirDrop is a huge part of how we're able to do our jobs, and it does sort of lock us in. Some kind of AirDrop on Windows would be nice. Beyond that, though, I mean, look, File Explorer still seems old. Like, what we're looking at right now...
Oh, look, I hate for this video to be a macOS versus Windows comparison. You click on the magnifying glass in Finder, you type what you want, and you find it. In File Explorer, it does exactly the opposite. It gives you every registry file, every little tiny nook and cranny in System32 that you don't need.
So is the comparison that Finder helps you find things, Explorer helps you explore?
That is the best explanation you have made in your entire life.
Here's the real question.
Do I like macOS more? Yes.
That was not my question, but I guess that answers my question. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for other hot rumors and leaks, and make sure to also ring-a-ling the ding-a-ling bell so you're always notified the next time that Ken has a very, very bad take.
I got nothing to say about that. It was
No, you've just had some bad takes, I'm just saying. Hypothetically speaking.